Welcome, friends. Today I'm going to tell you a tale of resilience, hope, and unexpected twists of fate. Enjoy the story. Amy Johnson stared at her phone in disbelief, her trembling fingers dialing the same number for what felt like the 100th time. The cheerful voice of the automated message mocked her growing desperation. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Please check the number and try again. No, 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 Amy muttered, her voice cracking. This couldn't be happening. Not now, not when she needed him most. Panic rising in her chest, Amy bolted from her dorm room, barely remembering to grab her key. She pounded on the door across the hall, praying her neighbor was home. Jen! Jen, are you there? I need to borrow your phone. It's an emergency. The door swung open, revealing a bewildered Jen in pajamas, her hair a mess of uncombed curls. Amy, what's wrong? Please, Amy gasped. I just need to make one call. My phone. It's not working. Jen handed over her phone without question, concern etched on her face. Amy's fingers shook as she dialed the number she knew by heart, praying for an answer. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Hello? A gruff voice answered, and Amy's heart leaped. Mr. Cooper, it's Amy Johnson. I'm trying to reach Adam. It's urgent. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Mr. Cooper spoke again, his voice was cold. Listen here, young lady. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but Adam wants nothing to do with you. He's moved on. I suggest you do the same. But sir, please, The line went dead. Amy stared at the phone in shock, her world crumbling around her. Jen touched her arm gently. Amy? What's going on? But Amy couldn't speak. She handed the phone back and stumbled to her room, collapsing on her bed as the tears finally came. Hours passed in a blur of misery and disbelief. Amy lay curled on her bed, her mind racing with possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. The sound of a key in the lock barely registered until her roommate's voice cut through the fog of despair. Amy? Oh my God, what happened? Kate dropped her backpack and rushed to Amy's side, her face a mask of concern. Amy looked up at her friend, her eyes red and swollen. He's gone, Kate, she whispered. Adam's gone. His number's disconnected and his father told me to move on. Kate's brow furrowed in confusion. Wait, what? Start from the beginning. Why were you trying to reach Adam? Amy sat up slowly, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. I'm pregnant, Kate. And Adam, he's the father. Kate's eyes widened in shock. Oh, Amy, she breathed, pulling her friend into a tight hug. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? Amy shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't know. I'm scared, Kate. I can't do this alone. I can't have a baby. I'm only 20. Kate pulled back, her hands on Amy's shoulders. Hey, look at me. You're not alone, okay? We'll figure this out together. But first things first, have you seen a doctor? Amy shook her head. Okay, that's step 1. We'll go to the campus health center tomorrow. They can confirm the pregnancy and talk you through your options. Kate's voice was calm and steady, a lifeline in Amy's storm of emotions. And Amy, whatever you decide, I'm here for you. You're not alone in this. For the first time in hours, Amy felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't alone. She had Kate, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The next week passed in a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, long talks with Kate, and sleepless nights weighing her options. In the end, Amy made the difficult decision to keep the baby. It wouldn't be easy, but something deep inside her couldn't bear the thought of any other choice. Now, she stood outside Luigi's, a popular Italian restaurant near campus, smoothing down her new black slacks and adjusting her crisp white shirt. It wasn't exactly how she'd imagined spending her evenings as a college sophomore, but the reality of impending motherhood meant sacrifices had to be made. You must be Amy, a boisterous voice called out. A portly man with a thick mustache approached, wiping his hands on his apron. I'm Tony, the manager. Kate's told me all about you. You ready to get started? Amy nodded, forcing a smile. Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Ah, none of that sir business. It's Tony to everyone here. Now let's get you acquainted with the menu and the layout. It's Friday night, so we'll be busy. But don't worry, we'll start you off easy. As it turned out, Tony's idea of easy and Amy's were vastly different. By the end of her shift, her feet were aching, her head was spinning with drink orders and specials, and she'd narrowly avoided dropping an entire tray of lasagna. But she'd made it through, and the wad of cash in her pocket, tips included, felt like a small victory. Weeks passed, and Amy settled into a routine. Classes during the day, work at night, and stolen moments of rest in between. It wasn't ideal, but she was managing. The morning sickness had finally subsided, replaced by an ever-growing bump that she carefully concealed beneath loose shirts. It was a busy Friday night at Luigi's, when Amy's carefully constructed world came crashing down once again. She approached her newest table, notepad in hand, only to freeze in shock at the familiar face looking up at her. "Adam?" she gasped, unable to hide her surprise. Adam Cooper's eyes widened in recognition, then quickly darted away. He was seated at a table with several older men in suits, including his father, looking every bit the polished young professional in a tailored blazer. "Good evening," Adam said stiffly, addressing the table rather than Amy directly. "Allow me to translate the specials for our guests." Amy's mind reeled as she realized the other men at the table were speaking Hebrew. She listened in a daze as Adam smoothly translated the menu, her own knowledge of the language, picked up during a high school exchange program, allowing her to follow along. As she took their orders, Amy's hand unconsciously moved to her stomach. The small bump was hidden by her apron, but she saw Adam's eyes flicker to the movement, a flash of something, guilt? Fear? Crossing his face before he looked away. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Amy went through the motions of her job, her mind racing. Should she confront Adam? Tell him about the baby? But every time she glanced at their table, she saw Mr. Cooper's stern gaze, a silent warning in his eyes. It wasn't until she was clearing nearby tables that she overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "Are you sure they don't understand English?" Adam's father was saying in a low voice. "Positive," Adam replied. "They're relying entirely on my translations." Mr. Cooper chuckled darkly. "Perfect. Then they have no idea that the contract they're about to sign gives us complete control of their company. By the time they realize what's happened, it'll be too late." Amy's hand tightened on the plates she was holding, her knuckles turning white. This was wrong. These men were about to be cheated, and Adam, the father of her unborn child, was complicit in the deception. For a moment, she was tempted to walk away. It wasn't her problem, after all. She had enough to worry about with the baby on the way. But then she thought of her child, growing inside her. What kind of example would she be setting if she stood by and let this happen? Before she could second-guess herself, Amy marched to the small stage where local bands sometimes performed. She grabbed the microphone, her heart pounding. "Excuse me," she said, her voice echoing through the restaurant. "I have an important announcement to make." All eyes turned to her, including the startled gazes of Adam and his father. Taking a deep breath, Amy began to speak in Hebrew. "Gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but there's something you need to know. The contract you're about to sign is not what you think it is. These men," she gestured to Adam and his father, "are planning to deceive you. The English version of the contract gives them complete control of your company." The room erupted in chaos. The Israeli businessmen began shouting, while Mr. Cooper lunged towards the stage. Adam sat frozen, his face pale with shock. "Security!" Tony yelled, rushing to Amy's side. "Everyone calm down!" In the ensuing commotion, Amy found herself ushered into Tony's office along with the Israeli businessman and one of the local partners who had been unaware of the deception. As the story unfolded, with Amy translating, the depth of the Cooper's betrayal became clear. "Young lady," one of the Israeli men said, his English heavily accented, "you have saved us from a terrible mistake. How can we ever repay you?" Amy shook her head, suddenly feeling very tired. "I just did what was right. I'm sorry for disrupting your dinner." Tony placed a hand on her shoulder. "Amy, you did more than disrupt dinner. You prevented a crime. I'm proud to have you on my team." As the night wound down and statements were given to the police, Amy found herself sitting alone in the now empty restaurant. She jumped at the sound of a voice behind her. "Why did you do it?" She turned to see Adam standing there, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. "Because it was the right thing to do," Amy said simply. "Something you seem to have forgotten." Adam ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "You don't understand. My father? No, you don't understand." Amy cut him off, rising to her feet. "Your actions have consequences, Adam, not just for you, but for others, including your child." Adam's eyes widened as Amy's hand moved to her stomach, the small bump now visible without her apron. We're... Yes, Amy said softly. "I tried to tell you, but I guess it's easier to disappear than to face responsibility, isn't it?" Before Adam could respond, a police officer approached. "Mr. Cooper, we need you to come with us for further questioning." As Adam was led away, he looked back at Amy, his expression unreadable. She watched him go, a mixture of sadness and relief washing over her. It wasn't the reunion she had imagined, but at least now he knew. Whatever happened next, she had done the right thing, for herself, for those businessmen, and for her baby. Months passed, and life settled into a new rhythm for Amy. Her belly grew, along with her determination to create a good life for her child. Kate remained a constant source of support, helping with doctor's appointments and late-night craving runs. One crisp autumn morning, Amy sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by baby catalogs and a notepad filled with lists. "Okay," she muttered to herself. "Crib, changing table, car seat. How does something so small need so much stuff?" A knock at the door interrupted her musings. "Come in?" she called, expecting Kate. Instead, she was greeted by a sight that made her jaw drop. Tony from the restaurant stood in the doorway, along with two of the Israeli businessmen she had helped that fateful night. Behind them was a young woman Amy didn't recognize. "Miss Johnson," one of the businessmen said, smiling warmly. "We hope we're not intruding." Amy struggled to her feet, acutely aware of her messy hair and oversized t-shirt stretched over her prominent belly. "No, not at all. Please come in. I'm sorry for the mess." Tony waved away her apologies. "Amy, these gentlemen have been trying to reach you. They have a proposition for you." The next hour passed in a whirlwind of explanations and offers that left Amy's head spinning. The businessmen, grateful for her intervention months ago, wanted to help her. They had purchased a small apartment near campus, fully furnished and ready for a young mother and her baby. "We can't possibly accept this," Amy protested, tears welling in her eyes. "It's too much." "Nonsense," the older businessman said kindly. "You saved our company, our livelihoods. This is the least we can do. Besides," he added with a twinkle in his eye, "consider it an investment in your future, and the future of your little one." The young woman stepped forward then, introducing herself as Sarah, their translator. "There's more, Amy. The company would like to offer you a job as a remote translator. Your skills with Hebrew are impressive, and we could use someone with your integrity on our team." Amy's hand flew to her mouth, overwhelmed by their generosity. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Kate piped up from where she'd been listening by the door. "Amy, you deserve this. Both of you do." She nodded towards Amy's belly. With tears streaming down her face, Amy nodded. "Yes, thank you. Thank you so much." Later that day, as Amy stood in her new apartment, she could hardly believe how much her life had changed in just a few short months. The nursery was already set up, painted in soft yellows and greens. A rocking chair sat by the window, overlooking a small park. As she sank into the chair, her hand resting on her belly, Amy felt a sense of peace wash over her. It wouldn't be easy, raising a child on her own. But she wasn't really alone, was she? She had Kate and Tony, and now these unexpected guardian angels. "We're going to be okay, little one," she whispered to her unborn child. "More than okay. We're going to be great." 6 months later, Amy cradled her newborn daughter in her arms, marveling at her tiny fingers and rosebud lips. The delivery had been long and difficult, but now, looking at her baby's face, Amy knew it had all been worth it. "Hello, Lily," she murmured, tracing a finger along her daughter's soft cheek. "Welcome to the world." A knock at the door pulled her attention away from the precious bundle in her arms. Kate poked her head in, grinning from ear to ear. "Hey, Mama," she said softly. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Amy admitted, "but happy. So happy." Kate came to sit on the edge of the bed, peering down at Lily with adoration. "She's perfect, Amy. Absolutely perfect." Another knock, and Tony's jovial face appeared. "Room for a few more visitors?" Behind him were the Israeli businessmen who had changed Amy's life, along with Sarah, their translator. But there was someone else with them, a young man Amy didn't recognize. "Amy," one of the businessmen said, "we hope you don't mind us dropping by. We wanted to meet the newest member of the family." Family. The word warmed Amy's heart. These people, who had started as strangers, had become so much more. As the room filled with soft conversation and coos over baby Lily, Amy noticed the young man hanging back, looking slightly uncomfortable. Sarah noticed her gaze and smiled, pulling him forward. "Amy, this is my brother Daniel. He's just moved here to work with the company." Daniel stepped forward, his eyes meeting Amy's. There was a warmth there, a kindness that made Amy's breath catch. "It's nice to meet you, Amy," he said softly. "And you too, little Lily. Sarah's told me all about you, your story. It's incredible." Amy felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "Thank you. I'm just trying to do my best." "Well," Daniel said, a shy smile playing at his lips, "from what I've heard, your best is pretty amazing." As their eyes met again, Amy felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with post-pregnancy hormones. It was too soon, of course. She had Lily to think about, a new job to navigate. But maybe, just maybe, there was room in her heart for one more unexpected blessing. Later, as Amy prepared to leave the hospital, she looked around at the group gathered to help her. Kate, her rock through it all. Tony, beaming like a proud uncle. The businessmen who had become her unlikely champions. Sarah, already proving to be a dear friend. And Daniel, whose gentle smile promised possibilities she hadn't dared to imagine. With Lily secure in her arms, Amy stepped out into the sunshine, ready to face whatever came next. Her path hadn't been easy, and she knew there would be challenges ahead. But as she looked down at her daughter's sleeping face, Amy knew one thing for certain. Sometimes, life's greatest twists of fate lead us exactly where we're meant to be.